Hello everyone, I'm the Enforcer, and welcome to the breaking news. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and support us on Patreon, link in the description below. Today we have gotten breaking news from around the world, as we've been able to hear the Ukrainian drone forces have conducted a major attack on the significant port of Ust-Luga, knocking out Russia's ability to transport liquefied natural gas at sea. At the same time, we've also been able to hear that other crippling attacks have been conducted throughout the Russian Federation, striking and destroying Russian oil refineries at Syzran, while at the same time, the Ukrainian Armed Forces are conducting a lightning offensive near to the area of the city of Pokrovsk and Myrnarad, attempting to cut off 3 Russian brigades from the front line and conducting a complete encirclement, possibly leaving 9,000 to 11,000 Russian forces near to the area of Pokrovsk completely encircled and most likely with the threat of destruction looming over their heads if this encirclement is successful. Outside of that, we have also been able to hear that the Israelis are conducting airstrikes against the Yemeni Houthis at this moment, after stating around 10 hours ago that these strikes were going to be inevitable. Meanwhile, around the area of Jabalia, we have also been able to see the Ukrainian, or more so Israeli armed forces, are continuing their offensive through the city with a plan to completely occupy the Strip. We have a massive amount of news today, and getting into our first and major piece of news out of the port of Usluga, we were able to hear that the Ukrainians have dealt a deadly blow to Russia's ability to ship liquefied natural gas out of the port of Usluga, generally meaning that they've lost their ability to transport liquefied natural gas as a whole, as this is one of the few ports in the entirety of the country that has this ability. The port of Ust-Luga is an absolutely major and significant port for the Russian Federation, costing tens, if not over $100 billion to be able to construct this facility. And this facility is a multimodal port, responsible for the transportation of different kinds of aggregate products such as coal and other aggregates, as well as oil, petroleum, refined fuel products, and liquefied natural gas, one of the more important ones for the Russian Federation, as liquefied natural gas, crude petroleum, and refined fuel products are where the Russian Federation makes the most money in terms of exportation. Nevertheless, this specific area on the northern side of the completed part of the port of Ust-Luga is where natural gas is handled, or liquefied natural gas is handled, and loaded on the specific liquefied natural gas carrying vessels. Today, we were able to see the Ukrainian Armed Forces conducted a 600-mile-long attack to reach the port of Ust-Luga and hit it with their drone forces. We were able to see in this first clip a Shahed 136-style drone flying over the uncompleted port of Ust-Luga further north, as it then rockets on its way over to the fractionation unit, which is responsible for the transportation of the liquefied natural gas, hitting it and causing moderate damage to start. This moderate damage is then followed by a complete near-nuclear explosion. We'll get to that in a second, though. But we can see the first hit here on the fractionation unit. We're then able to see another clip showing us the actual explosion that occurred once the second drone hit the gas fractionation unit. This is a very specialized sort of a structure that is at the port of Usluga, and it actually is this one right here that my mouse cursor is circling around that's in the dead center of the screen. This is called a cryogenic gas fractionation unit, and this unit is responsible for the movement of liquefied natural gas from their storage tanks on land onto the liquefied natural gas carrying ships at sea. This process is incredibly meticulous and has to be done with the cryogenic gas fractionation unit doing most of the labor, moving the gas. If this facility is knocked offline, Russia loses their ability to load with liquefied natural gas onto the ships waiting in the port and to be able to ship it out into the greater world. That means if this little facility right here, the fractionation unit, is destroyed or is severely damaged, the entire port's liquefied natural gas operations stop until it's repaired. And from what we can tell, based on the second drone hit, we are pretty assured that all liquefied natural gas shipments from Ust-Luga have stopped effective immediately. Here's the clip. And in a second, you can actually see the second hit, and there it is. It's a near Oppenheimer-sized fireball from the movie Oppenheimer. It is insane. What you're actually seeing right there are the vapors of the liquefied natural gas exploding after the drone slammed right into the fractionation unit and caught the vapors and the liquefied natural gas on fire. what you're now hearing is the alarm siren sounding around the port, denoting that there was a major fire as well as an air raid that was ongoing at that moment. We also got to see the explosion directly happening on the fractionation unit from a security camera clip, not clamora, totally different thing, that happened at the port of Ust-Luga. And here it is. You can see the drone coming in, slamming into the fractionation unit, and there is the Oppenheimer-sized fireball.
Прям видно, как он летит. Че, подавай?
Проводи в ОБК врача. Димон. Покажи в ОБК, как пройти.
From what we understand, this has now been burning for some time, and the amount of damage to the fractionation unit is so severe, it has most likely been completely disabled for a long-term period, most likely several months, maybe even longer than that. Russia makes most of their money off of crude oil sales in terms of exports, but liquefied natural gas is another major export for the Russian Federation and actually makes up around the second largest export volume of the Russian Federation to foreign countries outside of crude. The fact that the Ukrainians knocked out the only port that is able to conduct this at a large scale means that the Russian Federation is going to be suffering from even more significant financial woes, considering that they will no longer be able to ship their liquefied natural gas to countries like the Republic of India, which they do not have a direct pipeline access to. On top of that, with the Ukrainians knocking out the Onechta pumping station inside of the Bryansk Oblast, which is a part of the greater Druzhba pipeline, that also means that all of Russia's liquefied natural gas exports to Europe, including Hungary and Slovakia, have also been completely knocked out as well, meaning, for the larger part, that beyond small exceptions, Russia's ability to export liquefied natural gas to anyone, either by pipeline or by ship, has been completely knocked out at this point. They will be hemorrhaging money over the next several weeks as a result of this action, and a lot of significant natural gas producers inside the country, like Lukoil Gas or Gazprom, will most likely be hemorrhaging money, considering that they are no longer able to access the lucrative foreign markets to export their goods to. Outside of that, the Ukrainian Armed Forces also conducted another attack against the Syzran refinery near to the area of the city of Syzran on the Volga River. This refinery is somewhat significant and is able to refine over 100,000 barrels of refined fuel products per day, and the Ukrainian Armed Forces also successfully hit and knocked out, or at least damaged, this facility to the point that it's going to be knocked out for a temporary period of time. This is already coming as the Russian Federation is suffering from crippling gas shortages, and most likely will continue to, as it does not appear that any sort of a rationing regimen has been put in place by the Russian government, and it also appears that Russian fuel consumption is continuing at the exact same rate as it was before the shortage. This will only help to exacerbate that, as the deficit will now be going from around 1.1 million barrels of usable fuel products today to somewhere around 1.2 to 1.3 million barrels of usable fuel products per day being consumed that the Russians are not able to replace. We also were able to hear in the meantime that the Russian Federation, even looking down the barrel of complete financial collapse at this point because of the impending doom that comes from a massive fuel shortage such as this, and pretty much by Ukrainian means being cut out from the international liquefied natural gas market, the Russian Federation is still doubling down on not getting into peace talks. They are, in fact, now saying that the West is responsible for blocking peace talks with Ukraine, which nobody is. Then the Russians disproved their own statement. Well, generally Lavrov did, because Lavrov blamed the West for saying that that's why peace talks aren't being conducted. And then he said that the Ukrainian government is illegitimate. Lavrov stated, Russia recognizes Zelensky as the de facto head of the regime and is ready to meet with him in this capacity, but constitutionally, he is illegitimate. This means that they're not willing to meet with Zelensky. They've already made it clear in the past several days, Lavrov has, that Putin will not meet with Zelensky because he is considered to be an illegitimate leader, and that statement is made to delegitimize the entire Ukrainian government and therefore any peace attempts that are made, because the Russian Federation will immediately circle back around, if anything's not in their favor, to just saying, well, the Ukrainians are an illegitimate state, so this didn't even matter anyways, and then continue on with the war as usual. So it does appear that at the moment, Sergei Lavrov is making it incredibly clear the Russian Federation is not willing to look to peace, and while they are making it incredibly clear that they are the ones who are incredibly difficult about even trying to get into a peace agreement, they're also going to blame the West at the same time for their very own stupidity. It's an unreal sort of a thing. Outside of that, however, we have also been able to hear that the Ukrainian Armed Forces have been conducting insane actions near to the area of the city of Pokrovsk. As many of y'all know, the city of Pokrovsk is a somewhat active battlefield. It actually is the largest one that we see right now in the war in Ukraine. From what we have been able to hear, Ukrainian armed forces are now conducting what may end up becoming the largest encirclement of any armed force if it is successful in the war. Right now, there are several brigades that we find near to the area of the town of Fedorivka. That is the 39th Separate Guards Motor Rifle Brigade, the 132nd Separate Motorized Rifle Brigade, which just lost an entire battalion to Kucherev Yar. We also know that the 114th Separate Motorized Rifle Brigade, the 9th Separate Motorized Rifle Brigade, the 5th Separate Motorized Rifle Brigade, this one's incredibly important, and also the 1st Separate Motorized Rifle Brigade are all present around the area of Fedorivka. To give you all a little bit of an idea of how much manpower that is, each brigade has about 3.5 thousand guys in it. So if you take that number and you multiply it by, I don't know, 7. So let's take that really quickly and multiply that just to see what we get. 3.5 thousand times 7. Some of y'all who are a little bit math savvy might have already figured it out, but that's about 24.5 thousand men. That's about as many men as would be needed to invade the nation of Estonia if Estonia was left without any NATO protections. That's about the same number. So that many Russian men are sitting right now around Fedorivka, and nobody's behind them. So, to explain what happened, the 5th Separate Motorized Rifle Brigade, which was responsible for this area of the front around Malinivka, advanced because their corps commander told them to. The corps commander, based off of the report from the 5th Brigade, was told that another brigade was largely in area to be able to take up the slack and pretty much not leave a giant opening in the Russian lines. So, the corps commander of the 5th Brigade, which is in charge of most of the brigades within this area, told the 5th to move on forward and try and push Krasny Liman. So that's what the 5th Brigade did, and when they did it, they left behind a giant gaping hole at Malinivka. So there's nobody there right now. All of the Russian brigades further south are down near Hradivka, Ivanivka, and also Baranivka. All the other brigades are east of Koptyeve, meaning there's nobody here. It's completely empty. So the 425th Regiment of the Ukrainian Armed Forces realized this and started pushing this area yesterday. And the Russians started saying that they were making ground. Starting today, they made a lot of ground. It's now looking like it may actually end up becoming a full encirclement of around 24,000 men, because we know that the 93rd apparently is now attempting their own offensive from Volodymyrivka, and the 425th is conducting their own offensive from Nikolaivka. So it's highly possible that the Russians near to the area of Fedorivka right now, 24,000 strong, are possibly getting encircled within the next day. It's incredibly bad when we see the map that was actually released from Oleksandr Syrsky explaining the situation at the front. This is the current situation. This little area that is white with the red dashes through it, that is the area that the Russian Federation is currently inside of at the moment. This is recently occupied ground. The areas in blue with the blue dashes through it, that's recently retaken ground, and the Kucherev pocket is still represented, but we know that battalion completely shattered yesterday. Nevertheless, there is about 24,000 men within this dashed, or more so, pretty much a dashed red area. That's the best way to explain it. There's about 24,000 men there. And so they're about to be completely encircled. There might not be a way for them to get out, meaning that the Russians may lose about an entire 2 corps worth of manpower within that area within the next few days. This is going to be, if the Ukrainians pull this off, and it looks like they may, this may end up becoming the worst defeat that either side has faced in the war. The worst defeat up till this point that we have ever seen would have been, at least in terms of the amount of captured and lost, would have been the siege of Mariupol, where pretty much all defending forces were wounded, killed, and captured. None of them hardly made it out, and from what we understand, that may be considered, if we're speaking about the amount of captured, wounded, and killed, the worst defeat that any side has faced in the war in Ukraine, at least in terms of a singular battle. This is going to end up making the Battle of Pokrovsk the worst battle of the war. It's already the worst battle of the war in terms of losses. The Russians have taken about 50,000 losses at this point, just to even get close to Pokrovsk outside of Avdiivka. But now they're going to lose possibly 24,000 men wounded, killed, and captured. This will be the worst situation in the war. Meanwhile, the Ukrainians are also making ground near Zeleny High in the southern region of Donetsk, as it does appear that the Ukrainian Armed Forces are also conducting a counterattack within this area and attempting to push the Russians back down here. In general, the Russian front lines are going incredibly poorly, and we're assuming that the Russians are dealing with a near horrendous absolute defeat north of Pokrovsk at the moment. It's actually humorous because just a few days ago, really only a week ago, the Russians were advancing about 10 kilometers a day just north of the city. You can actually still see that represented on the deep state map right here. They made it all the way to Zelody Kolodias with 1 battalion. Now, as of today, instead of gaining 10 kilometers, they're about to lose 10 kilometers and also 24,000 men. So the situation is literally done in Uno reverse. Outside of that, and further on down inside of the Middle East, we also were able to hear of other major developments pertaining to the State of Israel and Iranian terrorist proxy forces that are continuing their hostile actions against the State of Israel. The Yemeni Houthis have been keeping up a limited drone and missile attack campaign against the Israelis over the past several months, firing a sporadic drone or a missile, and I'm saying that in the singular because it's usually just one at a time, at the State of Israel intermittently, usually every few days. The Israelis stated last night that they've got a little list of targets that will be found, and none of them will be missed. Not a single one will be missed. And they were going to start striking on the centers of gravity that the Houthis are operating from inside of western Yemen. Apparently, that's apparently code word for the city of Sanaa. The city of Sanaa is the largest and most populous city inside of the entirety of Yemen. Currently, it is the capital, or really the headquarters, for Yemeni Houthi control in the country, with the government, which is still fighting the Houthis, actually headquartered somewhere out of the city of Sayon, which is the largest city still under their control at the moment. Nevertheless, we were able to confirm that the Houthis have been absolutely blitzed today in Sanaa. We were able to get a decent amount of footage from the strikes occurring within the city, and from what we were able to hear, the Israelis are going after high-priority targets, the presidential palace, other sorts of key infrastructure around the city, and attempting to pretty much reduce them all to cinder. We also were able to get additional clips of the airstrikes that were being conducted in these clips as well. We see another one of the Israeli strikes, apparently on some sort of a petroleum storage facility of some sort. You can tell by the explosive fireball, it was petroleum. We also were able to see another airstrike. This one apparently was hitting the presidential complex and missile bases around the city. It appears that the Israelis are still attempting through airstrikes to conduct a deadly blow to the Yemeni Houthis, but from what we have been able to tell and what we've been able to see, and according to what a lot of experts are saying, it doesn't really appear that airstrikes are that effective against the Yemeni Houthis, and it appears that if anyone wanted to deal with the Houthis permanently, there will have to be a ground operation conducted to actually uproot them and completely destroy them once and for all to ensure that they no longer pose a threat to the southern Red Sea or the Gulf of Aden's shipping lanes, as well as the nation of Yemen as a whole. While the Israelis have been conducting this action, we also were able to hear out of the area of the Gaza Strip that the Israelis were resuming their fighting around the area of Jabalia, with some footage actually being published today by the Israeli Defense Forces showing a Namer APC, or really what could technically be called a command Merkava. It's almost made on the very same chassis and hull system as the Merkava, was operating around the area, along with other clips from the action around Jabalia at the moment. We can also see a Merkava that looks like a Mark IV LIC or a Merkava Mark IV M. We see Israeli forces moving through the area at night. We also see them bringing in the combat engineer bulldozers to help clear the way for the tanks. Nevertheless, it does appear that the Israelis are continuing forward with their plan or campaign to fully occupy the Gaza Strip. At the moment, it appears that the Israeli vision for what their plan is in the Strip is continuously changing every day, with some days being said that they're not going to be allowing any government to be in control, and the IDF will pretty much be the military government in control of the Strip during the occupation. The Strip will be permanently occupied. Sometimes the Strip will not be permanently permanently occupied, and it'll only be occupied for some time. It's incredibly unclear what the Israelis are actually planning on doing in the Gaza Strip. One thing is clear at the moment: they are going to take over the Gaza Strip. We just don't know what's going to be coming afterwards, a temporary or permanent occupation, or even what the government inside the Gaza Strip is going to look like, as there appears to be multiple different statements from the Prime Minister of Israel suggesting that one of a million things is happening and is inevitable at this point. So with that, I hope that explains the situation that we're hearing out of the state of Israel, at least at this moment, with the occupation or attempted occupation of the Gaza Strip. And with that in mind, folks, that is actually all of the major news that we had for the day. I've got to thank you all so much once again for watching. It's been an absolute honor and a pleasure to be able to cover all this news for all of y'all once again, and I hope that y'all have enjoyed this greatly. If y'all have, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you really enjoyed it and you'd like to help support these sorts of videos and help to make these kinds of daily work efforts possible on our end here on the channel, you can support us on Patreon, link in the description below. For the cost of about a cup of coffee, $5 a month, you can actually help us to make these sorts of video projects possible each and every day. I've got to give a massive thanks and shout out to all of our patrons who are currently on Patreon at the moment and supporting this channel, because they help to make these video projects possible for me and Enforcer Matt to make every single day. So a massive thanks to all of them, and a massive thanks to all of y'all who are going to be joining Patreon here soon. And so with that, we will see you all in the next one.